This is Real and Raw with Lynn and Brian. You are Brian, right?
Yes, I am.
Yes.
In the
I was
flesh. I'm
I was
here. I'm
scared.
here.
Yes, I was scared. Another day, a weekend with your in your own bed,
Yes, in my own bed. Yes.
and that's why
Yes.
you're smiling.
I'm not going to deny it. That's for sure.
Oh my goodness! Hey, Tracy's in the house.
Tracy's here. What's up?
Thanks for being here, Tracy. So, anywho, so how was your weekend?
Pretty chill. I just worked all weekend. So,
You know what? I basically just chilled as much possible and caught up with a couple friends, and I started binging on 24, that show. So I don't know, man. There's 11 seasons. I don't know how long I can stick that going, but anyways,
it,
so
I realize about how much I like to have my peace and serenity with nothing going on. And it's definitely a gift when it's there, when I can just wake up, have some coffee, and not worry about other people's stuff for a while.
oh man, I love it. Yeah, I had some mindless weekend. It was like so mindless. I mean, I loved it. I mean, that just rejuvenates you, especially when you're an introvert. You got to have your space. And I'm starting to demand that on the weekends because if not, I'm going to lose my sanity during the week. So we're going to talk about engaged couples. And hi, Theron. And it's just not engaged couples that we're
No,
talking about, neither.
no, no.
It's, I mean, yes and no. I mean, it's just anything and everything that in a relationship, period, and a workplace too, because you got to have give and take at work.
Yep.
You can only boss your boss so much, and they can only boss you so much, right?
I mean, to add some context to it, we're making our way through. I mean, we started off with relationships, but now we're moving into engaged couples. The trigger for that was moving up to and on from Valentine's Day. So we're keeping on with that, but these principles are universal. I'd be surprised if there was something we talk about that wasn't universal for every relationship or anything where you're around other people, right?
Right,
If
for a
you know
long
them a
amount,
little or if you know them a lot, where these principles or these things do not come into play.
especially when you're talking, when you realize you're going to be like coworker, husband and wife kind of thing or whatever. I mean, when you're in a situation, then you got to take it. Okay, I'm in this. What can I get out of this, or what can I take of this? What can I give and take of this? And any kind of relationship takes two. So
well, and it's like, let's look at the health of it. Engage means two different things. Yeah, absolutely. But the givers and takers, it doesn't make any difference of what group it is, right? But and I'm glad you brought that up, Lynn, that this, somebody that tunes in, and we're grateful for all of our loyal listeners and then anybody catching the replay, but don't be, I'm not engaged or that, I'm past that. It still doesn't mean that you're exempt from givers and takers in other areas of your life, right?
Yep.
If you're a part of like a nonprofit group, or, you get together with women, or men or whoever it is, that any group that you're a part of, is everybody a giver or are there takers? Are there people that do all the work and then some people that don't do work? I mean, these are not foreign things to people as we make our way through life.
Right. And that's why I just wanted to make that distinction at the beginning of our conversation, because I don't want people to think, oh, engaged couples, I'm going to pass this show today.
Correct.
No, we're just talking about basic in life. And yeah, we do have engaged couples in mind. You know why? Because we're excited. They just got engaged. They're thinking of being married. And we just kind of fact that people that are engaged, there's people around them that don't even have the decency to tell them what that really means and what that entails.
Correct.
And here, Brian and I are here to stir shit up.
Oh, yeah. On a Monday, imagine what it's going to be like on Friday.
Sure. I was fired up last Friday.
Yeah, that hour went by like that.
Yeah. And I'm just going to keep going for this week, because now that you guys realize the premise is basically a relationship as a whole, but let's, the newness does wear off. And when the newness goes off, you got to identify, what's this relationship to you, and, for you, with you, against you, not against you. and the signs to look at, what to look forward to. I don't think this is going to be very good for me in the long haul, because that's what happens. We don't spend time looking at what the effects and how it's going to go for the long haul.
Well, and just to
So.
set up a context for everybody to, for this topic today, I think you heard me lace it on my shoes so I could run, Lynn. Get running, Tracy. We're coming for you. We'll just hop in the car and catch you anyway. So there you go.
That's right. Well, no, a lot of people avoid a lot of stuff. That's the
Absolutely.
problem.
Well,
That's
and
the
then
problem.
they want the reward of the great relationship, or they want everybody to be on the same page, but obviously you only have the motivation or the desire to hit the ball over on somebody's side of the court, and then if they don't hit it back a series of times, what are you going to do? Right. Because it's like, you're a giving person. You want to give to that person, but we run into roadblocks because, when we're a giver, we do it from emotion. We do it from care. And then when that's not reciprocated, maybe the first couple times or whatever, depending on the context, we don't worry about it. But then after a while, where it's like, man, I'm really putting a lot into this, and I just trust my heart and my gut that I'm not getting anything back. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that that's one of the major indicators here, is that it's all about the feeling. It's about it. There's no magical time when it's like, ooh, you have that thought bubble that says that person's a taker. You don't have that. It's in the moment. It's probably a series of circumstances or a series of situations that led up to that. It's usually not
absolutely one. Theron, thanks for this. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah. So shouldn't Theron, thanks for being here. Shouldn't married couples act like they just got engaged? What you do to win a person, you should keep it up forever. Yeah, I mean, and that's that kind of
give that guy a prize. Actually, well, maybe I'm not going to say that. Never mind. But go ahead, give him a prize.
No, that parallels what we talked about on Friday. Is that okay? What you did previously, like to go from engagement to marriage, right? What got you to that, for that person to agree to commit to you, is all of that effort. That doesn't mean it stops.
It shouldn't.
It's the next step. But then how does it keep going? And that's what we're speaking to here is that, Theron, to use your words, what you did to win that person is not like, okay, I got that person. Now I don't need to do anything. No.
That's why we're talking. It's continuously identifying, was that just, a half-assed attempt to trick somebody to be in a relationship or not? I mean, basically that's what it comes down to. I mean, that's, like I said, once the newness goes away, things settle in, and the dust settles, and then you see where that dust is.
And just to set the stage as we get into this in a deeper way, is that my thought for this topic was, you moved in with somebody, you're committing to them, you engage them, you're with them, and it's like, ooh, this person is different than who I thought they were, and there's these things that start showing up. So they're not on the forefront, otherwise you might not get to an engagement. So just to set the context for everybody, is that everything that led up to the engagement was great, right? You said yes, now you're moving in, you're making these life changes. You're working through the planning process, maybe a date, maybe not a date, enjoying the engagement part of it, whether it's a week or several months, like what we talked about in a previous show. But just to set that stage, that it's like, ooh, identifying givers and takers. If you're moving in together, you might have never lived together before. So you don't know what that in and out is of like the day to day, right? When are we going to go grocery shopping? Who's going to pay the bills? All sorts of things that when you're living apart from each other, that you don't see on a day-to-day basis.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And for me, it's when I look at givers and takers, is that, it's all based on the feeling. It's all based on your gut. And more than likely, there is probably a lack of communication that shows up throughout that. Right.
Well, it's just like the beginning of a relationship. Somebody might do something just to be kind, but come to find out they can't fucking stand doing that.
Right.
And it's like, dude, you should have started doing that then. I mean, like, you either conform, or you're truly try to be yourself from the get-go and see where the chips fall, or you set yourself up for failure. If you're gonna be this way one way, and then once you get the girl, you're not gonna keep that up. I mean, it's failure time, man. You just you're setting yourself up for failure.
Well, you're not only are you being a disservice to yourself, but you're being a disservice to the other person.
Yeah.
Because they fell, whoever they fell in love with, given your identity, the consistency is either going to be there or not for the long term. And obviously if it was a fake identity, well, that might not have been there as much as who you really are, right? Because how long can you fake it? And I know that, I'd probably blown away by how long people faked being somebody that they're not in relationships, all to find out that it was just a hoax. It was just a big ploy, right?
Yep.
And who they really were wasn't identified until, the other person is heartbroken. They gave up everything. They sacrificed everything, and it didn't turn out the way that it should have turned out.
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad when that happens, but it happens more times than not. And well, the biggest thing is people are kidding themselves. They're kidding themselves that if they act a certain way, I'll get this reaction and all is good, and I deceived it. But you truly deceived yourself first and foremost.
Yep.
I mean, not that I say get the freaking scroll out and say, this is who I am, these are my demands.
Okay, now that we're engaged, I need you to read this.
Yeah, shit.
Before we watch TV or make food together, you have to read this.
Oh, damn.
As I was just looking at these words on a deeper level, it's like, another way to parallel this is that like givers are action takers, right? Takers may be talkers, right? I'm just trying to parallel like things that, our listeners can connect with in terms of like, when you're a giver, you take action, right? You take action beyond your, you put that person in front of yourself, right? But a talker, they take. But also though they might not either declare anything, right? But it's like they're just a thinker, right? There's no action, right? They found that sweet spot where it's like, ooh, I found this spot where it really doesn't take any much of my effort or no commitment on my part, and when you're living with somebody and planning a wedding and a marriage together.
Shit, don't even start going there, man. Because when they start talking that adds to the pile of stuff, laundry that's not being picked up by somebody. I don't know. Or the toilet seat not going down, man.
Well, and I think though that it's like when there's always that honeymoon phase when it's like, wow, you've been courted and
it's the honeymoon before the honeymoon.
Exactly. But then when you get down to like bills and the bigger discussions, are we going to have children? Where are we going to move to? All of these things, there is no perfect time for those. Someday doesn't exist.
Yeah. Well, shit, if you can't talk about who's going to pick up the toilet paper or who's going to pick the seat up or down, how can you go any further than that, man?
Right. I mean, or it's that time of the month and, the partner needs to go get your products, it's just like, it's what you do for each other. Right. Yeah. But it's like, I've been in circumstances where it's like when you give and give and give, it's a horrible feeling when it's not reciprocated. And it only gets worse the more that, the more the worse it gets, and is also the more revealing it gets in terms of who that person might be. Women need to remember that the toilet seat actually goes up too. Yeah.
Tracy, we'll discuss that later.
Yeah. I don't really have much to say on that because it's just such a simple thing to do.
Well, shoot, Tracy, I'll tell you what, have that done to you and you get up in the middle of the night and go sit on the toilet. See how that feels.
Either that or you raise it all the way up and then you're right there on the bowl. You know what I mean?
No, I've been there that way. Like, that was not no fun, man.
All of a sudden you're woken up, your partner's woken up. Whoa, what happened?
You
fell in the freaking toilet seat. Or you fell into the toilet, rather.
Yeah, it just happened to me. That was not fun.
So what do you think in your mind? I mean, a giver, based on, when you were involved, oh yes, I have had that. Oh, let the mind go with visuals, for all of us,
Yeah, right. Oh man, I just know it was cold. I mean, that was cold.
Oh, heck yeah.
Anyways, as far as
Like givers, I mean, like from, all about the feelings about when somebody's giving of themselves or to you,
oh,
what kind of things fall into that?
I mean, a lot of things. It's for me, it's all the simple things. I mean, I like that chivalry stuff. Like a guy opening a door for you, and helping with the groceries, or just the simple things. And maybe because I was married to somebody for 19 years that didn't do half the shit he should have done, but but it's one of those things where it just, I guess, if you have it or you don't, you don't know till you appreciate it. um you know you you don't have a gauge. If everything's great and hunky-dory at the beginning, that's great, then you don't realize there's guys out there that are not like that. I mean, so it just depends. I mean, there's, until you have a gauge to go up or down from it, everything's a little different. And Theron says, the honeymoon is over when you're in the shower and she comes to use the toilet. Yeah.
Or when those days when you'd actually like close the door when you're there to go to the bathroom, and your partner's in the right outside the door or something, and then you don't even close the door.
Yeah. But no, seriously, it just all depends what we're talking about. I mean, sometimes it's the little things that make a difference for me, and yet for some people, they don't appreciate the little things.
No.
So they just like, oh well, the guy should take out the garbage. Well, shit, as a female single, taking out the garbage, then you have a guy do that. Oh, you really appreciate it. Yeah. You see, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you go from assumption to actually seeing. Yeah. It's just, you appreciate those things.
And then your perception of that person changes it, like depending on how you're raised, and everybody is raised a certain way. But I'm not the type of person where any duty is based on your gender.
Yeah.
That would annoy the crap out of me if somebody said, "Oh, he's got to take out the garbage because he's a man." Well,
yeah.
What is that? What is that?
Yeah, that's bullshit. Because I'm not going to be in the kitchen because you think a woman should be in the kitchen all the time. No, I mean, but you see, that's where I say you pair up with people that like, if somebody likes cooking and you don't, they're good, Yeah. But Theron goes, yeah, roles should be defined, or know what a person likes. What chores do you like opposed to them, so that whoever prefers to do it or doesn't mind doing it is compromising, or whatever. I mean, it should be discussed, and it should be no big deal, and it should be like giving into the relationship, and even just picking up after yourselves,
And I've witnessed in my past when and I've shared this in other shows, when it feels like roles, or when it feels like things that are open to whoever seem to be beneath somebody.
There's an issue.
That's a problem.
Yeah, because that's not the only freaking thing that they have issues with.
I've been in those relationships before where it's like, I remember one time where I'm not a dishwasher person, right? Like when I dirty dishes, I usually clean them right away, get it done with, right? To me, using a dishwasher can be a waste of money, right? With all that water. I was born and raised to just wash dishes. It's quick. You get it done. You dry them. You put them away, right? Done. And I was going away for a weekend to do work for a couple weddings. And I did the dishes before I left. And I told my partner, I said, when these are dry, can you put them away? And here it was a Friday. I did the dishes. I left. I come back on Monday or Tuesday, and they're still sitting there on the table, or on the right there on the thing.
Dish rack.
They were just, there was a towel laid down and they were there, right?
Yeah.
And I asked my partner, I said, how come these weren't put away? And she's like, I shouldn't have to do that.
I shouldn't have to.
So in the moment, you were okay by agreeing that you would, but now it's beneath you. I don't understand that mindset where, and obviously she was, type A personality. I'm type A too. But it was like to just, no matter how busy you are, when you're sitting there right at the table, 2 feet away, and it's 4 days later, 3 to 4 days later, that doesn't make a whole lot of conscious sense to me.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when they're right there. I mean, aren't they eventually going to get in the way? Wouldn't it be just easier to take a minute and a half? They're already dry. Just put them in the cupboard. That kind of stuff blows my doors off. And especially when it's based on old school rules or traditional values where, oh, that's the man's job. Excuse me? Like, I'm not going to assume any of that because every relationship is different.
Oh, yeah.
And there's some situations where, depending on where you live, where they remove all that depending on where you live, right? Like, you don't even have to take out your garbage, right? You just put the little container near the driveway, right? They really make it simple and easy for you, you know? So that kind of gender roles type of thing or whatever, I think is when I hear when somebody presents it in a steadfast way that this is the way it is, like it's law, I back away.
Yeah,
because I might go off.
Yeah, me too. I was disciplined, dishes were a punishment to me, but my thing is I'll do my own dishes or I'll help do the dishes, especially if somebody cooked or whatever, I want to help. I mean, but the other thing is okay, so let's say you cook all the time and I do dishes, or you do dishes and I cook. Now, there might be a role reverse where you're cooking and I should do the dishes. Not, oh, you cooked, but you still do the dishes. Like, or, not even helping out or, why do you have to stay in conform to the same habit? I mean, just be in the present and do whatever you can,
Right.
So room service is always easier. Now, Darren, I can't agree with you more, but you're always on the road. So of course that sounds good to you. So, but yeah, it's one of those things where I don't think it should be on a schedule, or I don't think it should be conformed to who it's detailed, because what if you're busy all day and you can't get something done and I need something done? I'm going to wait for you to get it done. No. I mean, it's just like when I go see Rick, he'd have a table full of bills and he said, I can't ever touch them. I can't do this. I can't do that, but it's my house. Do whatever you want. And I mean, I've got asthma, so I'm allergic to dust and dog hair and everything. So I just decided not to clean around there because, I mean, I couldn't clean it the way I wanted. I couldn't get shit done. I'm like, if that's how you want to do it, I can't.
Well, and one of the biggest things I found that really screwed me up for a couple of years, and with therapy and stuff like that, if he vacuums, I'll change. Yeah, the Tracy, I love it. Boom, boom, boom. Please don't burn the meatloaf. No, I love that, Tracy. It's like you don't want to see what these hands do with pipe wrenches and changing oil. I'll get it all over myself.
Yeah, she's a farm girl, man. She's tough.
Hey, farm girls. My mom is one of them. She's one of 13. God bless you. God bless you. Is that one of the things I went through, and it took therapy, and it continues to take therapy, is if you are a giver and that's taken away from you because it's not acknowledged, or even if there's engagement around it, where you feel inside of your heart and in your gut that it allows you to be who you are, that's a huge piece of toxic, stuff that I hope nobody has to go through.
Yeah.
Because when you given your all to somebody as a giver, I mean, let me just say the context. I love giving flowers. I love giving cards. I love showing my partner that I care about her. It doesn't matter. And it's not prompted for anything. It's just something
Right.
I love to do. And when that feeling goes away, when it feels like it becomes work and not passion or not something I really care to do, that's when when your giving nature needs to be recognized that, hey, I'm doing everything I normally do, but the outcome is different. You know what I
Right.
mean?
But I mean,
It's not that the gesture doesn't work anymore. It's just not working for that person.
right.
Simply put.
And that right there would be a sign that that person ain't right for you. Because if they don't appreciate those little things,
Yep.
they ain't gonna appreciate any shit that you do for them.
Correct.
And then
go ahead, Lynn.
No, go ahead.
And if you are an action person, but then when you challenge them with an action, and let's say they're a taker, it'll show them right away, because they're going to want to change the subject. They're going to make excuses. Their busy schedule is going to take over. But what is a priority here? Is it everything else, or is it what we're dealing with right now? Whatever they choose and whatever they say is the evidence of where they are.
Yeah.
And I know that there's emotions involved in this, but obviously when we're in relationships, is that we set aside all rational thought when we're emotionally involved in something. That's where the blind spots come in, right?
Yeah.
That's where we cycle it in our head as far as, ooh, what does this mean? Or I love this person so much, but somebody on the outside can look at what you're dealing with and be like, man, this is freaking going nowhere. But the person doesn't want to hear it because their heart is emotionally invested in it, and they're either naive or in denial about seeing it. So my hair stands up when, as I give, it then becomes expensive.
Well, that's what I mean. I've learned, don't give what you don't naturally would do.
Correct. Yep.
Because you're invoking something that's going to be expected later.
Right.
And that's where I think relationships go wrong at the beginning. Right. I mean, be honest and say, whatever it is, and then take it from there, and be like, oh, I'll do this once in a while or whatever, but not to be expected. Yeah. People conform to that, mundane, everyday kind of relationship, and don't do anything to spice it up or to make it fun. It just, or people start out that way and then they lose that momentum, and then it's like,
Well, and then the biggest thing that I faced is that I feel like I'm doing something wrong, because my heart is driving this experience. And I know that it wasn't perfect on my end. There was things I could have did, but also, though, I'm only one part of it, right? And it's like when you're trying to keep something going, you remove all, logic. That it's like it takes two people to do it. So if one person's racking their brain, plus they're doing their part, right? They're giving it all they have, and they still wonder why it's not working. There's only so much you can do, but that's not going to come unless you're thinking clearly, removing the emotion from it.
You got to have it. You got to have it where that person wants to receive it. Because if they don't want to receive it, like I said before, if you have somebody that doesn't like, cards and flowers, then that's not the person for you. I mean,
or if they were, but then they change their tune, or at the very worst, they can't speak up, that they don't really care about that stuff anymore. If they can't just have that straight talk speaking.
Oh yeah, right? You have problems.
Yeah, absolutely. If they can't do it then and there in a delicate way where it's like, hey, I appreciate the flowers, but whatever. If they just can't say that kind of stuff just in a conversation,
then we got a problem.
Absolutely. Because if that is something small in the whole sequence of events, marriage, engagement, and all that, if they can't do it for that type of thing, what are they not going to be able to do about it later?
Yep, absolutely.
Codependency is often giver's motive, expecting love for giving. Yep.
Darren, you're on the money today.
You are.
It's awesome. I hope you're not driving and texting at the same time or something.
Yeah, we don't want that.
No.
We're grateful for you to be here, Theron, but we don't want you to be driving and messaging us.
Yeah.
Takers and whatnot. I mean, unfortunately, in this context of engage, it's like, okay, they're daily, how they are daily is going to show up one side or another. The consistency of whatever it is, right? Either how you know them to be is going to continue, of which led to an engagement, and that only continues, or there's going to be, depending on the length of engagement and how long you know each other and all that comes into play. But if they are a taker, how does that show up?
Yeah. Well, can I also say that giver and taker in conversation too?
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
Because if somebody's always yakking, the other ones ain't talking, then you better watch out, because there's going to be situations they're going to blindside you.
I also think too, it's how somebody's wired, right?
Yeah.
Is that if are you dealing with creative people, left brain thinkers, right brain thinkers? I think a lot of that's got to do with it too, because people that are emotionally driven, they're going to be more about the connection and the affection, right? People that are right brain thinkers are more logical. They may not be very touchy-feely. It's black and white, right? Emotions are not black and white. You know what I mean? Like,
no, but the logistics of finding this shit out at first would really help you a lot of heartaches in the future.
Absolutely. 100%. 100%.
That's why I think speed date is probably good. You like this?
Yeah, like on the 40-year-old virgin, where they do that speed dating, and he runs into his ex-girlfriend, and then he's smoking and drinking out the door. Yeah, with Steve Carell. That was awesome.
Oh man, but seriously, it's so many parts of. You might be a giver in certain situations, and then you might be a taker in certain situations.
Right.
So don't think, oh, I'm always a giver, because I'm sure there's things that you too are a taker in.
But the difference is feelings, right?
Right.
Like if you're truly honest and transparent with yourself and vulnerable, if you feel like you're taking from your partner, that's a good thought to have, right?
Yeah.
But obviously that's how you feel. Does that other person feel the same, right?
I'm laughing. I'm feeling like a marketing thing here. Are you giving value?
Yeah. Hey honey, is our relationship valuable today? Honey, did I take from you last night? Honey, were you giving this morning?
That's valuable information, peeps.
People don't have those conversations. Like, hey, I gave you a piece of bread. Now you give me an egg.
I know, right? I mean, it can all add up in those crumbs. leave a little crumbs behind.
We might have a brunch or just an extraordinary amount of food if we keep talking about this.
Oh shit! But seriously, it's the little things that can really add up to tumultuous things that you're setting yourself up for failure. And relationships, and I love to be positive, but it just kind of cracks me up, because people will not have the conversations to have the uncomfortableness to get comfortable. You can't. It's like pillows, right? You might lay on them and they're not comfortable, but you might have to punch them a couple times or fluff them up or something, put them down, and all of a sudden they're all comfortable again. Same damn thing, It truly can't be the same damn thing. Where you have to be tough with it to get it just right. I mean, come on. Like Glenn Morshower always say, come on with it.
Come on with it.
That's it.
Come on with it.
That's it. So just be vulnerable, be yourself, and, have those disclaimers. Hey, I'm doing this because I really like you. It's not out of my nature, but I'll do this one time.
Please sign this before I do that thing for you.
Yeah, because it ain't just a one-time offer right now.
Yeah, one-time offer, 2 for 1. And plus, if you order in the next 10 minutes, you'll get this free.
Oh my god!
Oh, and by the way, that free thing you'll never get anyways, because we'll forget to put it in the box.
Shit, can I get a coupon for Valentine's Day next year?
We'll give you some old chocolate.
Oh, okay. It's a deal.
Yes, 1-year-old milk chocolate. Woo!
Yeah, just to say 50 cent.
50 cent.
50 cent.
How about a quarter, y'all?
It was on sale. That's what the hoarders say.
Oh my God. When we look at Dr. Stephen Covey's metaphor and understanding of like the banking analogy with withdrawals and deposits and withdrawals. Thank you.
Wait, deposits. That means you were just a taker, not a giver. In the way you responded, that caught you. You couldn't think of a deposit.
Boom.
So you were just taking.
I was a taker. So I think that this givers and takers, I think, it parallels it very well for another way of looking at it. Right. Is that as a giver, you're depositing into somebody, you're contributing to them, right? Whatever that is. For engaged couples, it's, waking up and possibly having pillow talk before, but in the morning or before you go to bed, right? It's love notes. It's sending somebody a text throughout the day, right? You're always contributing to somebody because that's just who you are, right?
Yep.
You're doing things for people without being asked to do them because that's just who you are. But a taker is the withdrawal person, right? Now, this is not, it references a banking analogy, but how it happens is going to be different for every couple or every interaction or every group of people. Because it could be time, it could be effort. One of the common things today, given our society and where it is if somebody offers coaching. And I think, Lynn, you, I think it was Friday about people taking your time, right?
Yeah.
Is that it's like givers. You're a giver. You've got a lot of knowledge. You got a lot of expertise producing these shows and knowing StreamYard and knowing technology. And it's just like, okay, a taker, whatever their motive is, they're not going to rest until they get that. But what they don't realize is that just because you know the technology or whatever doesn't mean you're going to ever do a show, you know?
Yeah.
And you need to follow it all the way throughout to
Right.
gain your audience, to have topics to talk about and have an audience that wants to hear it. Right. And so I think that givers and takers type of thing is very prevalent in our society where we live a more virtual life where, there's coaches everywhere. There's programs that you can, learn on your own and do it as you have time for, right? And I think that really parallels that. It's like somebody's time, givers and takers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that is the one thing that we don't get any more of, right? We can always make more money, but we can never get more time. I know it's cliche to say that, but I think it really speaks to at a common denominator of givers and takers. Is a person taking my time? Does somebody have a constant or a nagging issue that I keep having to talk about with them, but they haven't done any work on it, meaning that they would that they would actually take ownership of it,
Yeah.
And so I think that givers and takers parallels everything in life. And,
and that's where I'm at now. It's like, you know what? I'm going to give, but I'm going to take some money in return now and to feel better about it. Right. I that's a different perception I have now. It's like, if that's what it's going to take for this person to see value in what they're asking and what they want help with, then that's how it's going to take. And I'm good with that now. I'm down with it.
And I think too, is that when are we givers and takers both? Yes. But I and this touches on what you said, Lynn, a few minutes ago, as far as like, okay, somebody that gives, but they also take, their heart is always in the right place, whatever that is. But in my opinion, the only right place to be in is a giver, right? I mean, you're always going to bounce off of each other in a relationship, right? But it's like giving to that person, letting them know that you're there for them. You want to be with them if it's an intimate, engaging relationship, right? And it just blows my doors off when, you give and give and give, and your reinforcement is there all the time because it makes you feel great, right? And you love doing it. You do it without even thinking about it. It's second nature.
Well, you got to learn how to give in a way that you're not having them be codependent on you.
Absolutely.
You have to give it away to a certain way that, I'm going to help you because of your time constraint right now. I'm going to help you, not hinder. someone from being dependent on their own self.
Correct.
You know, I love in a relationship when I know somebody, they don't need it, or they don't need it. Then I'm more to give because I want to, not because I have to, not because it's a victim state, a victim mentality that, oh, they, like treating them like an invalid and doing all this stuff when they're very well capable of doing themselves, but you're just trying to make life easier. So, I mean, there is that give and take, and not feeling like, I mean, like, good example. I mean, there'd be times Rick would do so much stuff for me, and I'm like, I want to pick up groceries. Like, I'm not like, would always have a hard time just getting out of the car and not even bringing one bag, even if it's just the bread or something light, the napkins or something, and it's like, no, leave it. Let me do it. It's like, you're not a servant. Like, let me just at least bring something in, like I contributed something. And I mean, that was his place to be giving that way, but don't take it away from me too, to participate in giving as well.
And another one that comes to me, I don't know where it fits in here. I had an ex that told me, you don't make me happy anymore. And I took it really personal. I'm like, man, what does it take? What do I got to do? But then we broke up, and I've been seeking therapy. And what I realized is that I can't make anybody feel a certain way. That's up to them. I can reinforce it, but they have to make the conscious decision that they're going to be happy.
Right.
Neurologically, in their own brain, they have to make that decision that they're going to be happy and do the necessary things, whatever that is.
Yeah. And that can all stem from them not being happy, period. There would have been nothing you could do. And again, that's why I think in a relationship, you could have the super nicest guy, super nicest relationship, or girl, whatever, and it's so harmonious that you don't feel challenged. And then you go to another relationship where you wish this person was as nice as the other person.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you can't have it both ways. Yeah. Or dudette, you can't have it both ways. Yeah. But until you know that friction, you don't appreciate the harmony.
Correct.
And it's a sad commentary, but it's totally true. And people try to get these combinations of relationships and put different priorities on the wrong things. That's the combination you get. I mean, because you are concentrating on specific things, you're going to get, I always use the analogy of the guardrail or the road. You should really say, let's look at the road. Let's look at our path. Right. You shouldn't even bring up the guardrail. Right. Because you're going to just go right into the guardrail.
In a business environment, I've realized where those that are true givers give without anything, right? They just give. They want to help. They have a cause greater than themselves if it's in a business environment, right?
Right.
And they do it without measurement. They do it without what anybody thinks. They don't care. They're on a greater path than anybody could ever imagine, right? And they continue to do that, right? There's always going to be an abundance that's in the coffers of, deposits versus withdrawals, right? Because It's on a macro level, it's on a world level. But then you've got the people that take, and maybe it's just me, but it's like, I don't see those types of people that take often where they actually give anything of substance, right? Because it just seems like their role, it's so much easier to just pick up the loose ends of what everybody else is giving them than it is to do the work themselves, right? And I see that being more prevalent in the world today, where, especially with the abundance of masterminds and tribes and these specialized groups that are forming, where if somebody wants to get better at a craft or at a skill, what better way than to be around like-minded people in a private environment? Right. Work on those things.
You can work on those things, but if you're still not working with the people that you're in the relationship with, people spend so much time preparing to get the perfect relationship that they're screwing up. Oh, well, I can't really deal with that person until I talk to these people here and get this education so that we can go here. They're missing the freaking point. Yeah. The point is you gotta work with what you have. It's a deflection to go find a mastermind or be at Clubhouse or this or that for solutions, when the solution really is truly in within you, that you're avoiding yourself to avoid the fact that you started a relationship with a person and you're freaking absent from the relationship. When you're absent from the relationship, that is taking away from the relationship. That's not giving nothing to the relationship, and it's all you're building is excuses.
And,
sorry, but that's just how I roll.
Man, boom, Lynn, boom, boom.
So I'm just saying, like, let's pare it back, though. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, there's groups and masterminds, and there's therapists, there's all this shit. But you know what? The therapist can only tell you so much shit, and half the time, sorry, even though the therapist, most of the time they sit there and listen to you. They don't give you advice. They let you listen to yourself out loud.
And they make
I've gone to therapy. I know how that rolls.
And
they make you keep coming back.
Well, I truly, in full transparency, I love therapists. But obviously what you ask for is what you'll get, right?
Right.
Is that if you really want to work on stuff, a therapist is great. But if you're looking for answers, there's nothing written on their freaking forehead that's going to help you, because it's all within you.
Right. And if
the reason why you go to therapy is not because they need to be fixed or improved or, whatever, reshaped or reformed.
But that's what I'm saying. Some people say they go to therapy and they don't go there with the questions to say, am I wrong in this? Or am I, was I being narcissistic of this? Was I blah, blah, blah? Like, they don't go there being freaking honest about, I got these insecurities. Is it legit, or do I need to work on that? Or is that right? Or am I showing too much, what do you call it? Codependency here. Like, can you give me a direction so I can straighten my ass out? Most people don't do that when they go to therapy. I'm just saying, I know.
Well,
because I used to do the same shit too.
It's 2 words. It comes down to 2 words for me. Take ownership.
Yeah.
That when I would go to therapy, okay, let me give you the before and after. When I started to go to therapy, and there was a lot of times, I went to EMDR, and, I had some pretty significant things, that went on in my life. The heartbreak of that woman I was married to. I moved down to the suburbs of Chicago. We talked a lot about that.
You were married to her? Or you felt like you just said that?
Oh, did I? No, I wasn't married to her. No.
You said the married.
Oh, no, cut that part out.
You said that. You said the girl I was married to.
I was not married to her.
I know. Yeah. Okay. Just
so
your ass out.
No, I was not married to her. So, oops, that came out of my mouth.
Yeah. You felt married to her.
I'm not going to confirm or deny that.
Okay.
And so, what I realized in therapy in the first year or so is that when I came in and I didn't really access my thoughts or what I've been working on, or here's what breakthroughs or breakdowns I had, it would only be top of mind awareness. But like I do now, because I have therapy tomorrow before our show or after our show. And it's like when I come ready with a few things to talk about, or what breakthroughs I've had, or, victories or defeats and how I overcame them, is that is a huge amount of homework, right? I'm contributing to myself getting better.
That's good.
That's a huge transformative difference versus, okay, I'm going to sit here and random shit better come to mind. Otherwise, I'm not going to have anything to talk about. Well,
that's how I was at first at therapy. I was like, they like this. I'm not talking, and they're just sitting there. I realized that was a waste of money until I could talk.
That's like somebody going. That's like somebody going to the ER or going to a doctor to say, "Hey, doc, here's what's wrong with me. Fix me."
Yeah.
The doc, who's the expert here?
Yeah.
The doctor is going to have to ask their own questions to find out what's really wrong with you.
Yeah.
And they can't help you until they access and you're willing to engage with them. So it blows my doors off that, what is somebody coming to the table with? And from my experience in private groups and stuff, is that one of my hot buttons is when people, it feels like they take their issue and they dump it on everybody else, and they're just waiting for people to respond.
And not taking ownership of what they just dumped.
Boom.
Yeah.
Is that instead of saying, hey, Here's what I'm working on. Here's what I tried. What do you think? And where should I go from here? That's a better approach because it shows that you've invested in it versus, here you go. I'm just going to dump this over here and I'm going to go on my merry way.
Yeah, tell me what to do.
Freaking, you're not going to learn anything.
You didn't learn anything. That's just it, you know? I mean, that's what.
And that's why, like in masterminds or any groups, like, you know, any groups, is that like, what do you want to get out of this? People that shortchange themselves answering that question truthfully, or they deny it, deflect it, whatever, I can already see what they're going to get out of this group. They're not going to get much. Yeah. Because they're not willing to trust themselves that, you know, it's not a law or rule that you have to succeed with this, but you've got clear in your head. Because if you don't get clear in your head first, how are you ever going to do it in your actions?
Exactly.
And it just blows my doors off that, you know, when, what a novel thing. If you want to get your goals met, or if you want to commit to something, you first have to write it down and then you take the necessary actions to fulfill upon it.
Yeah. Yep.
It blows my doors off when people don't want to put something at stake, you know, and then they wonder why they didn't, you know, at the end of a mastermind, well, did you do the work? No. Well, then duh. Of course you're not going to be any better.
I'm to the point that excuses just don't work, even on my own self, you know. Nope. It just, but call it what it is. Just like, instead of saying, well, you know, my stomach's acting up today and I don't want to go do this. It's like, why did you say you were going to do this if you know your stomach was going to act up? Not that I can help that, but I'm still saying is somehow one way I'm going to still try to do what I can. I mean, sometimes I can't, but I do everything possible because I don't like using that as an excuse is what I'm saying. I don't like using it as an excuse. I mean, it's just, you know, well, unless there's a funeral or an accident or something, it's just, you know.
Well, like a lot of business things or whatever, is that when people are not willing to do the work, that's usually a symptom. It's not the main causation.
Right.
The main causation is their belief system. Their, they have to conform somehow. It probably goes back to their childhood, right? They don't want to be the kid that everybody laughs at or embarrassed by. And it's like, if you're still holding on to that from the past, all I can say is I'm sorry for you.
Yeah.
Because every time that you go through life, every day and every moment, your past keeps coming back. And it's a filter in front of your eyes. It's things that are incomplete from your past that if they were removed, that something that happened to you in the past, we've all had stuff happen in our past, right? But we have a choice if we want to continue to live with that or to complete and do whatever it is that needs to go away. Because if you don't complete your past and the origin of things or why you are the way you are, it's just going to keep coming back. It's going to follow you everywhere. And I'm sorry, but I'm not going to live with regret in my life for things that happened 30 years ago.
No.
And that kind of stuff just, you know, if somebody is willing to say that here's what they're dealing with, and repeatedly over and over again, you try to give them help, or anybody gives them help and they do nothing with it, I got to just walk away.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like a trigger. You know, when my brother died, I was at the bank, and every time I put the password in, you know, and I check my bank, you know, I'd have that friction. And it was just like, you know, now I just have to think of my brother fondly or whatever, you know. And I mean, and changing that when I do go to my bank account and I've got to check something, you know, there's sometimes it creeps in, you know, and I'm like, nope, you're okay. It's life. It's, you know, whatever. It's a good time to think about them, you know, but I got, you know, I kind of erased as much of the trigger as I could to look at it a different way. Yeah. And, you know, but not to, like, even Glenn Morshower says, you know, we shouldn't be celebrating people's day that they died as a sad day in history, right? Because how many days, sad day histories you have, how many days of the month are you exiting off as a bad day when the day didn't even start?
Exactly.
And so that's a great analogy to say, you know, a lot of bad shit happens in a day, but a lot of good shit happen in a day. People are born, people get engaged, people get married, people have, you know, new houses, new cars. I mean, new promotions, new experiences. I mean, there's a lot of good things. If you're going to start out the day thinking of shitty, you're always going to be right, whatever you're thinking. And it really comes down to that. I mean, you're always right in what you're thinking or what you perceive is going to happen, because it's all like everybody loves to hear themselves right. Sure, yeah.
Well,
I don't even like when people tell me I'm right.
And it's interesting when somebody goes about their day and they think negatively, okay, is that it's interesting that it's usually not just one thing, it's everything.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
oh, this person's driving too slow. That lady didn't bag my groceries fast enough. Whatever it is, it's always this external world problem.
I'm always saying myself, I got to check myself. I'm like, well, I like to blame my excuses on Puerto Rican from Long Island, but no, just kidding. I mean, like I get like really huffy and bratty sometimes, and I'm like, you better just check yourself. You're gonna have a shitty day if you're gonna keep acting like that. And I'm like,
you're gonna
okay,
get the Lynn attitude.
I know, and that ain't good. So I'll tell you what, I'm trying to keep that girl away. I mean, serious. I was like,
It's like you don't want to flip.
Steve's here.
Steve's here. Hey, Steve.
Yep.
If you do what you have always done, you always get what you always got. Try something different. You want something different. Yeah. I think that as many times as there's been versions of that statement that's been shared in that quote and that understanding, people don't want to do anything about it.
Listen, he is like one of my besties, and I'm so proud. In the last year, I'm just really proud of him. Yeah. And he knows if he didn't change his ways, he was going, never mind. No, we'll stop. But no, seriously, it's really good to know that you do have to change what you're doing in order to get a different result. If you don't, then you only got yourself to blame.
Well, and there's two questions I ask myself.
Thank you, Steve, for watching.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Great contribution to our show today, and we're honored and grateful you're here. Two questions I ask myself every day, and it's amazing to me that we have all the answers ourselves if we're willing to ask ourselves those questions.
Oh, absolutely.
When we find all the answers, trial and error involved, if we ask ourselves these questions, about how can I do that? How do I do this? I don't know, figure it out. That's what we've all had to do, right? Life has thrown stuff our ways that we've never dealt with before, but we figure it out. You don't give up. You don't quit. No. And so there's two questions I ask myself every day. And it's amazing to me is that the strongest people, the most loyal people, the most courageous, risk-taking people are the ones that don't look for answers out in the world. They find the answers within themselves.
Yeah.
The two questions I ask myself every day is, what are you going to do about it? No matter what it is. I didn't sleep enough. What are you going to do about it? I need to get healthier. What are you going to do about it? Right? Taking that ownership of that the answers are not out there. So therefore, I'm not going to make anybody else wrong for something that I need to deal with and confront. Okay.
Absolutely.
Number two is, how can you afford not to? And now what I'm not talking about by the word cost is money. I'm talking about how can you afford not to, affording time, effort, commitment, risk, public perception, whatever that is. Man, when you're willing to dive down deep and ask yourself these questions, the world opens up.
Absolutely. And you know what? So what if you freaking fail? You're at least freaking fail forward. You fail forward and you did something about it instead of telling the same freaking story over and over. Well, and that's where people are stuck.
Well, and here's the thing is that how many, there, in my opinion, there's no such thing as a calculated risk. You either go all in or you don't, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you don't go all in, well, then you're being a disservice to yourself and whatever you're trying to do.
Absolutely.
But if you go all in and you fail, well, it's only a failure if you quit. It just means that this opportunity didn't work.
Right.
I mean, there's countless examples of achievers in the world that, if Steve Jobs, God bless him by being up in heaven, if he felt the wrath of BlackBerry and Nokia of what they were trying to do and how much they said bad about him, we wouldn't have an iPhone today. Heck, we wouldn't even have electricity if Edison didn't try 10,000 times to perfect the light bulb.
Yep. Look at the time.
Yeah. So our action step in question. And for all of our loyalists, we're honored and grateful that you joined us for a Monday segment to get us fired up and going in the week. And for everybody catching the replay, you're very important to us, and we're thankful for your viewership. So the action step in question today is, what does being a giver and taker look like in your life? Specifically, given how you were raised, how you live life, your life experiences, what does being a giver and a taker look like to you? If you want to share your comments with all of us, we'd love to. Lynn and I would love to read them and have us connect to them.
Yeehaw, time just flies, man.
Boom.
I know, right? When we're being raw and real, it's just, that's how it rolls. So we want to thank you guys again for being here, Steve, Darren, and Tracy, and the regular crew. We appreciate you, love you. Have a good one. And
hey, hold on, Lynn.
Yes.
Everybody, the phrase of the day is, make sure you put the toilet seat down. So remember that.
for Lynn's sake, right? Tracy said, have a good day. So thank you, Tracy.
Put down the toilet seat, everyone. You don't want to make that mistake.
All right, you guys, have a good one.